Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another commentary. This time we're taking a look at the storyline segments of Mummy Month. So, for the next 26 minutes, we're just gonna sit back, relax, and I'm gonna go into a few more behind-the-scenes details. I'm gonna try to maybe, not repeat some of the stuff in the making of documentary, but if I do that, I do apologize. So the first thing I should point out is that this episode was planned all the way back in 2019 and started shooting in 2019, in fact during October, and was a lot more elaborated than before, than the final product. However, then COVID happened, and a few other complications even prior to COVID happened, and eventually what happened was production shut down on a lot of our projects, including Batman, Ready Player One, the Star Wars prequels, and so on, and they just ended up being pushed back. This intro goes back to some of my earliest videos and reviews. This Halloween special intro has always been around. I always love the way it looks. We might change it for our next one whenever we get a chance to do one, because we're not worried about schedules anymore, but I always do love the Halloween special opening. It's classic Universal Monster / sort of Cinemassacre Monster Madness, which I owe a lot of thanks to in actually getting me into the Universal Studios monster movies was James Rolfe's videos. Now, this opening was the first thing we shot, and it was on a thunderstorm night during the rain, so that's actual rain, natural lighting. The only thing we did add was essentially like flashing lightning, which it kind of was, but not to the extent we have here. And so what I did was, for the Star Wars prequels, I filmed a bunch of lightning B-roll for a sequence, and I would just overlay it over this sequence. Now, the lighting is also a lightsaber, a Ultimate Effects lightsaber, that I put over my, under my head so I could give that sort of look. We use lightsabers for those. Lighting for that's really good, by the way. But yeah, so Brad's our Igor in this scene, because Brad was very much helping me out at the time during these, which he still does. Now, this whole subplot with Ratchet Von Stone, who I love playing, every time I do the German accent, he came from sort of, essentially, just the idea of this character, because people ask me about him, is basically he came from me being frustrated with the lockdown, that we felt like we were in a prison. We felt like we were being kept under quarantine for way too long. So he was basically a side villain until the pandemic died down. And around 2021, late 2021, it did start to die down. And when that started happening, I thought, okay, I can get rid of this character. And what I do love is that people really do hate this guy. They do hate this character. So when I shot him, it was like, okay, people really responded to that in my GVK review. I love these shots of Brad. That's sort of that Dr. Jekyll Hyde thing. I always wanted to say that. You gotta do the Frankenstein thing. It's alive! Oh, now I know what it feels like to be God. I love this explosion, so that this audio you hear Brad. I love it. That's actually Brad. We just filmed him going, what the fuck, and I just played it in slow-mo, and it sounded really funny. Now, fun fact, too, about this, this is actually the last time you will see me in that shirt. I loved that shirt. It's a Darth Vader riding a unicorn chariot shirt, and it was my trademark shirt for my show. However, I lost the damn thing. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know when, but I can never find that shirt, and to me, that broke my heart. So that's why in the transition, you see me into just a gray shirt. The idea is that Emotep just gave me a beard and took away my shirt, the bastard. Now these shots, that's actually me in the mummy suit, diving into a hot tub. I couldn't see anything. I was really trying to stay afloat. I almost couldn't breathe. There was a moment I almost drowned. But I did get back up and was able to do the shot. However, unfortunately, because of the way we made the costume through coffee bags and tea bags and stuff to give it that dirt look, the hot tub actually got completely fucked for a bit. It got a little busted because it was just so dirty and unkept. So it took a while to clean, and I didn't say anything. So sorry, Mom. This joke is always good. This was actually, that was kind of a nod to Nostalgia Critic, his take on the Brendan Fraser Mummy, where he was trying to do the Karloff thing, and then everybody only remembers the Fraser one, and that's when the new Tom Cruise one was coming out. This title I'm really proud of, by the way, is that Mummy Month title came out really well. And what's really cool is, too, with Brad getting slapped, that actual hit, we made it where I would hit him, not actually hit him, like we point the camera where it looks less suspicious, but I would slap my arm or slap my side so I could give that slap sound on camera, which is great. Now, this is in my new apartment. Now, apparently, during that period of time, during the pandemic, I did move, which meant a huge consistency problem for things we had shot prior. So I had to basically come up with the idea in my King Kong musical episode that my apartment, the main bedroom got changed, but I'm still in the same house. So when we transition to the new apartment, it's the same, essentially. So, now this scene here is right out of the first Mummy, where he kills that one guy in Cairo, I believe, or one of those, like, street town areas, and the flies come out. It's just mostly just me again in the suit, because this was during the second year of the pandemic, so it was very much a one-man crew. I was playing almost every character except for Brad, obviously. So I was playing the mummies, I was playing myself, I was playing the guards, I was playing everybody. It was a one-man crew for the longest time because we didn't have anybody to help us. One of the original plans was to have a big battle with the Magi and mummies, but we couldn't get extras on time. And at the time, I did have an out-of-the-bay actor that I met at Fan Expo, but he had to turn down the role because he was busy himself. And thankfully, later on with Ready Player One, we did follow up on that with Peter Garaz, who also plays Two-Face in my Batman videos, playing out of the Bay, and we hope to have him back in the future. Now, sand effects were hard to get on YouTube at the time, so I did have to do a lot of digging. Now, that Nerf gun is sort of a secondhand Nerf gun. I still have it. It's a nice Nerf prop, and I still use it. The only thing is that the notch, the lock on the top, kind of got busted during overtime, so I have had to try to fix that. Again, lightning shots added into the frame using a fading effect that I love, and color timing. I did a lot of color timing on this on these episodes. Now we're in The Mummy Returns. This is right out of Return of the King, when Denethor is just freaking the hell out at Faramir when he, in a scene in the extended cut, where you see him talking about where the ring went. So it's pretty much a nod to that. But, yeah, this character was made essentially as a frustration, a physical manifestation of the frustration I had with the pandemic. And he's also based on, like, things like, German SS officers you see in, like, prison movies like The Great Escape. Along with just, having gone to a few hospitals and had to deal with, like, a couple people like this in my youth, like, they are very aggressive people, so he's based on a lot of that sort of type. And there's a lot of these type of characters that are running sort of the meta-human control, in also sort of a side story to the Dr. Terawat stuff, which, to this day has actually been kind of shelved. Dr. Terawat has actually retired. He's now Chief Mepec on YouTube. But, so we keep this stuff sort of on the sidelines, for the time being. But yeah, it's a lot of jargon, it's a lot of talk, and what was funny, too, is that we did have the MacGuffin planned with the medallion that is given by the Magi that's in the museum. I found that medallion at a Value Village, and I picked it up because I thought it looked cool. But the reason I got it was because it had the Illuminati symbol. And that is basically sort of the Millennium Items symbol you see in something like Yu-Gi-Oh!, which we actually do want to talk about at some point, so that medallion will come in hand as a plot point later on. You have 24 hours to clean up. Now, yeah, basically, I like the fact also that there's some dread in these episodes because there's a time limit. Unlike the pandemic, where it felt like there was no time limit, so I made the assumption to basically say, hey, everybody, remember time limits? Remember when you had to get things done at a certain date and not just take your time because COVID? Now, all this stuff, by the way, basically this little bunker area where this office, this control room that he's stationed in, is actually just my bathroom. It's my bathtub. Because it was during lockdown. I had no other place to film it. Now those VHSs of the Mummy movies, I've had since I was a kid. Since the movies came out, I actually did buy them from Blockbuster, and I've kept them to this day. They're great tapes. I love them. Now, this shot here of the helicopters, like I said in my making of documentary, I was doing a routine drop-off selling stuff on Kijiji, and I found this area in Toronto that these clouds were coming in. I was filming it, that you were using Ready Player One, but that helicopter came right in, and I utilized that for a wide shot. It's almost like Imhotep's Plague has developed the city. These shots of the helicopter are from, like, 2011 when I went to a trip to New York. for stuff for my King Kong remake. Now, thankfully, the ROM was open by this point, but they still had the mask requirements, but it made shooting a lot easier because we could easily just dub it over and not worry about dialogue and rehearsing our lines. We could just move our mouths and say, okay, we can just dub from here, which worked to great effect. It did help us out. And thankfully, because it was still pandemic times, the ROM was not as busy as it was before. So it gives us a chance to have wider angles, to be less, like, space constraint. I do like that model of Egypt, by the way. There's a lot of stuff at the ROM with the Egyptian stuff that I love. There's a great dinosaur exhibit, all kinds of stuff there, which is really cool. But yeah, it's just basically setting up plot points that we do want to explore later, that the idea is that with all this multiverse travel and the disruptions of the space-time continuum and fictional universes, that now they're starting to merge. So the idea is like, oh yeah, basically, the priest in the mummy, the pharaoh, Seti the First, was also somehow connected to the Pharaoh of Egypt from Yu-Gi-Oh! Now that sign I did Photoshop in because we didn't get a shot of them, they didn't have a sign that said close because of the pandemic, so we had to make one. Now because that area was closed, we were supposed to go in that little tomb, but we couldn't, so on the spot Brad said, wait, don't you use the Force? And I said, yeah. So he said, why would you just do that and just open the thing? And I said, why the fuck didn't we think of that? We have to come back to these powers, because my character does have these abilities, so why the fuck doesn't he use them more? So we're gonna try to, in the next season for sure, do more of this type of stuff. Even though the characters are laying low because of bad guys at the end of Ready Player One, we want to utilize those powers more. So that was just basically, you know, having Brad hold it, and we had the camera, and we just like made it work very quickly. Now this was cool. I did like this idea. This I came up with on the spot. I said, oh right, there's mummies here. Why don't we have it where Imhotep resurrects these mummies to chase me? So we would get shots of them coming alive. Now those glow eyes, I don't have really the effect to do glow eyes that well, so I just quickly put them together. And then when they come out, I had the glass effect, the layer upon layers, and photoshopping that out. And then really it's just me in a suit on green screen, and then a skeleton rod puppet. I've never used rod puppets, so this was my first time using it, and I think they came out pretty well. Like, this is really cheesy, but it's fun. It's really cool. It's very Evil Dead-ish, which I like. I do like that shot of me walking out. That is, like, really good. Now, this shot of, like, the clouds, also, we did have clouds, but it was a blue sky, so I had to crop out the blue and use it as natural blue screen and then just darken it to make it look more like a plague. We did multiple takes of dropping that goddamn, that DVD, and I didn't care, because I don't like the movie, so it was good to kind of, like, you know, abuse the shit out of it, just out of frustration. Now what's funny is, prior to Mummy Month, I had never fully seen Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, so when I did my reviews, I finally watched it and I realized it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. That is a combination of a sunset shot I took and a natural blue sky in my house, which was cool. Now this rant is right out of The Simpsons. Basically, when, like, Homer gets that letter and he screams, it is right out of that bit in The Simpsons, mixed with The Princess Bride. It was a little bit of The Simpsons, The Princess Bride when Wesley's, like, screaming his ass off, but then on top of that, it's a little bit of Dragon Ball Z Abridged, I will not lie. This is a nod to Vegeta's rage, because in Dragon Ball Z Abridged, Vegeta does his rage, but it's felt throughout the fabric of not just space, but time. So we wanted to push that even more. Now that is Wesley's scream, because a mix of his scream and my scream, just screaming just fuck at the top of my lungs. Now when I shot all the host segments, it was so humid at the time, it was like at the end of summer, and I had this just fucking fly just bugging the hell out of me during the whole shoot. But it was funny, because I just thought, okay, it's just Imhotep's plague, just fucking me up. That is a split screen shot of me as the metahuman control guards, and there's Timber, of course, got a quick shot of her. The USS Kaiju Guard, the satellite orbiting space where all my Kaiju YouTube pals hang out as sort of this goofy Starship Enterprise. So there's Sean of JT is Reborn, making a cameo. Great time to get cameos on these, which I always love, because, you know, during the pandemic, we all needed stuff to do, so we all helped each other out online. So we have, like, Sean as our, you know, computer expert, Captain Nick, who runs the ship and is also the weapons expert, looking a lot like Team Fortress 2, which is funny. Yo, Nick, cosplay Team Fortress 2. You'd be perfect at that. I don't know if he's ever played the games, but he's giving me that vibe. I love that shotgun, by the way. I kind of want it. Now, what's funny is, too, is that Sean has said, can I just make a hentai joke? And I said, okay, fine, do it. It is really funny. It is really funny in hindsight. Isla Sorna, again, a plot point from my Jurassic Park videos, but for some reason, That Man is there from IndiFan show Fandemic, who is also a nice chap, and we got him just talking with the T-Rex, which is really funny. And he gets a call from BigJackFilms, which is one of the few rare appearances where he appeared in my King Kong Books episode and then died in the Godzilla vs. Kong episode. So I just thought it was funny to kind of get these two British chaps to talk to each other by Cranky. Although that's Australian. Then we cut to Universe... this is Huey 2 more of Huey's anime movie reviews with the Soul Saga still happening, and he's going to be coming back soon, which is pretty nice. So it was cool to get him to cameo. And then Universe 7, so this is the official canon Dragon Ball Z timeline, because people ask about the 18 continuity, where it's actually the future 18, not the Universe 7 18. And that's Bayteen, one of probably the best 18 voice actors on YouTube, next to Meredith McCoy, who is amazing. And then, of course, I had to get Inigo Montoya and Fezzik in there, because it's just, when you're making this homage, you might as well. And then just got the Fox animation verse. This was also a good time to get a bunch of fonts that I could use for, to explain the different multiverses. So yes, somewhere The Simpsons Springfield does exist in the fictional multiverses that I have traveled to. So, yeah, that was just probably the longest rage scream ever. And then this was a nod to when I did my review of Jaws 3D, where I just freak out and the straitjacket. That is a total callback to my Jaws 3D review, and I love how that came out. That's a really funny visual. Anytime I can make a joke like that, I will. Yeah, I was really distraught. That made the movie. That made Tomb of the Dragon Emperor almost unwatchable, but there is moments of greatness in that film. It would be cool if somebody were to deepfake Rachel Weisz in that movie fully, and then I could actually kind of accept it a little bit more. So, effects guys on YouTube, get on that. So now we get to the big final battle. This was a two-man crew. It was just me and Brad, mostly me, with the tripod, with handheld, just holding the camera out in some shots. And this was a challenge. It was like, how can you do a battle sequence without extras and with a one-man crew? And it is very tough. I do not recommend it for everybody. It is a very tough challenge. But it was a good challenge. It was something I had never done before. Now, there are some shots, I will admit, that the underlacing's pretty shitty, because I was using a part of my editing software that cropped it faster, not realizing that it also compromised the lacing in the images. So, I have since learned from that, but this was a good learning curve about this. Now, a lot of this stuff here was improvised. I just thought, you know what, this needs some levity. This needs some comedy in this battle scene. So, Brad and I just said, let's just, after we do the lines, do some improv. Come up with some funny shit. And we did a couple takes, and there were some really funny gags in there that we kept in. Now, this is a mix of practical mummies and CG mummies on YouTube. But this was cool. Split screen shots of the metahuman guards. I think in total there was about maybe 10 guards ready to go. Which was cool. Now, some of the mummies are actually zombie CG effects that I had to basically colorize with a saturation, or sort of an old film look, to give it that sort of brown sand feel to it all. There are some continuity issues with the belt because we had shot this in 2 days, and this was at the time that my hair was super long. I grew a beard because it was like, when you're under a pandemic, you're too lazy to cut your hair or do anything with it, so it was a new look. It was a new, unique look I was trying out, which was pretty cool. I don't like it now, but for the pandemic, for this sort of the character growth, it was pretty cool to see my character evolve to that point of getting a beard and shit. But yeah, those are good improv jokes that we came up with on set. And all this, honestly, when assembling it all together, was pretty fun. And it was just a lot of shooting at nothing. Shooting at absolutely nothing. We didn't have ammo. Those are Nerf guns, but we did not pack ammo with them. But yeah, there was a lot of CG blood, CG effects. The Wilhelm scream, gotta do that. Brad actually having fun. I do like the idea of having him the zapper gun, because this was back when he was still doing game reviews. Now this shot, I actually cut my finger on the sword. This is before we really had a legit prop. We have a good prop now thanks to a fan of a foam Nursel, but back then I had to make one, a foam prop, so I wouldn't hurt myself on set. This is the first time we used foam weapons for stunts. Now I do like these shots of, I do like those bits with Brad killing the dog. The only thing I don't like is that there's intercuts. There's some jump cuts that are pretty bad, which I'm not a fan of. And actually, that shot of the mummy, like, that turns around after I cut it, you notice the head comes off. That was an accident on green screen because I had turned, the mask came off. I thought, wait, this would be good for, like, a decapitation. So it looked pretty good overall. That was actually, I did jump. I made off a trampoline and I landed on a mat during that quick slow-mo shot. But the rest of it, yeah, I was still jumping around, bruising myself, cutting myself. It's fun to just do those type of stunts. I always have a admiration for making those. And that's actually me also not just playing Imhotep in the suit, but doing the voice. I used a filter on TikTok to give myself that feel. And I did try to take some Arabian language and translate it. It's not that easy. There's that shot there of the CG arrow flying past Brad's face had a very 3D effect. It looked like it came through the fence, which is pretty cool. $6 Million Man. Now, I've never watched $6 Million Man, but I do know that sound effect, so I thought, okay, I'll make a nod to that. And it is a Universal property, after all. And yeah, just like using the power of the medallion fused with my sword, it came with a good effect. That's just me holding the sword up at the camera and then adding a green screen shot of Imhotep, so it just makes it look like I've killed him, which is cool. Some of these shots came out pretty well. And again, this is the first time we used slow-mo, so it was a lot of trial and error, and this is right out of Terminator 2 when the T-1000 goes in. But basically, I was actually using that also as a reference pass in cutting the scene, which made it work pretty well. But this was all in slow-mo using my phone. I've been using my phone a lot for a lot of shots because the quality is almost on par with my Sony cameras, which I normally use. And yeah, Imhotep's back in the underworld. He's back in the netherworld, and who knows if he'll ever come back. We don't know. If we tackle fighting more Universal monsters, you never know. I wish what I would have done is have Imhotep give the finger there. That actually would have been really funny. And this dissolve effect, I really like how these came out. That was cool. It was a very Thanos Infinity War effect, which is cool. Now these shots are cool, where Brad and I, we synced this up, we high-fived, and we both synchronized opening the can. That was a one-take thing, but it came out really well, actually. Now, at the time, yeah, it was Coke Zero. I sometimes switch from diet to regular, because I do have to try to watch my health on that. But it was cool to do that. It was really fun to make that all work in sync. And then, yeah, now we're back to the plot with the lockdown. We're not done yet. Like, sure, Imhotep's gone, but he's not over. Now, the original ending, what's funny is the original ending to Mummy Month was going to have it where the female mummy from the new movie came out, and I had to deal with another one. But what happened is that the Karloff mummy would come out and say, like, basically when the female mummy's about to kill me, the Karloff mummy would tap her shoulder and say, "Would you care to rephrase that, you son of a bitch?" and knocks her out, and he's sort of the good mummy. But unfortunately, that concept was later scrapped because we didn't have a female mummy. Even though we bought a costume for it and we're ready to go, we didn't have an actress handy, so we scrapped that idea. I did buy a fez hat because I was planning to make a Karloff costume along with a female mummy costume, but again, that idea and concept never came to pass. Maybe another time, but you never know. And that's just Brad just informing my friends, because making a nod to the Great Escape episode, if you are paying attention to the storyline, there is some plot elements there. And yeah, I basically had to talk about, I fucking hated that. I really did not like that one, guys. It has its moments. Okay, that was an improv joke, and Brad laughed, and he said, "I was not expecting that, but you should put that in. I don't care if it pisses people off." But you know what? I mean, look, Scientology's weird, but I like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise I respect. I think he's kind of out of it, isn't he? Or he doesn't let it bother him as much, but yeah, he's just, Scientology's just weird. And that's all I gotta say about that Mummy movie. It's just a weird, it's a fucked up movie. It was such a waste. Now this is all setting up, actually the Hook review. Hook would come next after this, and then GBK, and then setting up who is the guy who found out all this information, locked me down, got everything on me, and has kept me in imprisonment. And it turns out it is the head of, sort of a head of the Metahuman Control, but also the head of a bunch of other different mad scientist stuff, which will be explored way later. But yeah, it's actually Gablor's human form that he uses to keep an eye on real world stuff. So, and it is tied back to BigJackFilms' past, which is more explored in Ready Player One. If you notice the security camera scene, that is the same guy. That is the same character. So we wanted to keep his identity a little bit more, like, anonymous until we were ready to get an actor to play him. So there's that. But those images, it was just a still image of a doctor dude, and then I actually put behind him a green screen shot of Ben Affleck going, well, here I am from BVS, and it just tried to crop it and blacken it, and it made it look all good. I do love how these credits came out. The font is very much Aladdin, but the background is actually the prop mat from Hamanatra that was on an auction that I grabbed an image of, and it made it look really good. But honestly, like, Mummy Month came out pretty well. I overall thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this extra little commentary for it. I don't know what I'm going to be doing commentaries on next, maybe Ready Player One, but I do want to do my storyline compilation first of it, like basically make it BigJackFilms the movie. But honestly, this was a fun time making Mummy Month. I was at first a little nervous it wasn't going to work, but I actually think it did. When is the next Halloween special? What the hell are we going to talk about? I have no idea. I'm still trying to figure that out, even if there is going to be a Halloween special this year, because Season 8 is taking its sweet-ass time. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until the next video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. BigJackFilms signing off, and happy Mummy Month, and support our Patreon. Bye!